What is going on, everybody? My name is Connor, the co-host with the most, and welcome back to the Clutch Crew Sports YouTube channel. And today we're going to be doing another tier list. This time we're going to be looking at Madden NFL video games. So this is going to be the first non-sports tier list. I've done 3 of these so far. Well, technically 4. One of them was a doubleheader. They've all been sports related. This is somewhat sports related, I guess, but this is going to be sports video game related, so we're not going to take all the Madden games because, being as how I'm only 22 years old, pretty well every game that came out before Madden 2000, I have not played for a single minute. So I've not even played Madden 2000, so that's going to be an interesting rating for me. I don't know why I included it, but I have at least played all of these games at least once. All but, let's see, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, all but 6 of these 21 games, or 22 games, I actually own. So definitely going to be for a good time here. So we're going to have 7 tiers. We're going to have the GOAT tier. That's going to be for my favorite one. Only one game is going to go in that tier. We have Elite, we have Great, Good, Okay, Bad, and Trash. And there definitely are going to be some games in the trash category because this franchise certainly is not what it used to be, foreshadowing for the future. But we are going to go in order. We're going to go all the way from Madden 2000 to Madden 21, which I just recently got a couple weeks ago. So Madden 2000. This game, this is obviously going to be the toughest one for me because I have not actually played this game. I know it was like kind of the first jump, so to speak, to the PlayStation. It's, it was the first cover to actually feature a player on it, like a certain cover athlete. Madden's still like the primary like person on this cover, but Barry Sanders was kind of like the first cover athlete. So, but from what I've heard from reviews and people who have played the game in other tier lists, seems to me like, okay, if my mouse could actually pick this up, it should be belong in the great tier. Like I said, it was not a fantastic game in terms of like if you're looking at features and what's available today, but for its time, I've seen a lot of like 8 out of 10s and 4-star, 4.5 stars on this game. So we'll go ahead and put it in the great tier, even though I myself have never played a single minute of it. So that's one's just going to be a bit on merit, I guess, or like what other people have said. But moving on to the games I actually have played, Madden 2001. This is also going to go. Okay, come on now. No, this is also going to go in the great tier. Actually, no, I'll put it in the great tier. Basically, this was the biggest leap forward for the Madden series. Probably since before, it was really jumping the console barrier. So instead of playing on the PlayStation, we were playing on the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. Maybe not quite original Xbox yet. I think that was a year or two soon for it, but definitely the PlayStation 2. It just updated graphics, updated everything in this game. And also, again, the first one to really, Madden 2000 had a cover athlete, but this was the first one to really feature a prominent cover athlete with Eddie George of the Tennessee Titans on the cover, and was also the beginning of the infamous Madden curse, which seems like it's kind of died off a little bit. I don't know. There's a couple athletes. Didn't seem like it affected Patrick Mahomes all that much, but it did kind of affect Lamar Jackson. So I don't know. I still say the Madden curse is a thing, and there are some very few people who have managed to beat it. Really, out of all the guys on these covers down here, not counting Barry Sanders, well, I think only about 2 of them have actually beaten the curse, and that would be Brady and Mahomes. But other than that, the rest of these guys at some point have all kind of fallen victim to the Madden curse. So Eddie George certainly was no exception, but Madden 2001 is going to be a great tier game. Madden 2002, we're going with Dante Culpepper on the cover, is going to go in the good tier. Really, just didn't really improve on anything that happened in Madden 2001. It was just kind of a bit of an update. it was again a good game, but nothing that really improved upon what Madden 2001 set. So again, not saying it's a bad game, but it's kind of the same thing in my opinion from what I've played. There was a little bit of an update to it, but again, not too big. That's kind of where I'm also going to go with Madden 2003, Marshall Faulk on the cover. We're going to put that in the good tier. These two games especially, I think, are very, very similar. Madden 2002 is a little bit different from Madden 2001, but these two, I think, are very, very similar. Just, they play the same. It's still fun, but nothing too big to really set them aside. Now moving on to Madden 2004 with Michael Vick on the cover. This is the first game out of this list that I actually own a copy of. And pretty well every game between now and Madden 25 I own a physical copy of. But Madden 2004, no question in my mind, belongs in the elite tier. Now, Madden 2004 obviously is famous for how overpowered Michael Vick was in the game. Probably the most overpowered player in a football game since Bo Jackson in Tecmo Super Bowl. But Michael Vick was fantastic. Anyone knows who's played Madden 2004. Whenever you get together with your buddies and play this game, no one's allowed to play as the Falcons because Michael Vick's just too good. But they introduced a lot of stuff. They introduced the playmaker ability in this game, where you could flip plays just like on a dime. Okay, if I see like if I have a run going to the right and I see they have a lot of people over there, I can switch it to the left. You could really do more with hot routes in this game. It was just a bit, they added a lot more features to it, and there was a lot more you could do with this game. You can even do lots of pre-play stuff on defense. It was really just the beginnings of the evolution of what Madden is today. Updated graphics, just everything. And of course, if ever you're feeling bad about Madden, just go back on Madden 2004 and play as the Falcons, because it's a lot of fun to play with Michael Vick. Madden 2005 with Ray Lewis on the cover. This is also going to go in the elite tier. This was the game, if Madden 2004 was the game that revolutionized offense in the Madden games, Madden 2005 was the game that revolutionized defense in the games. Very appropriate, obviously, Ray Lewis on the cover. This was the game that introduced the hit stick, which is still in use today. Probably one of the single greatest features in the history of Madden, the hit stick. Who doesn't love just delivering bone-crushing hits and causing fumbles? And it's still I think it was always there, but it kind of lost its relevance, I think, a little bit, sort of like in the, more recent Maddens. But I think really Madden 20, with the introduction of like the X Factor players, like the big hitters like Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner in them, really kind of brought it back to a major prominence. Like, the hit stick is still pretty well everyone's favorite feature in Madden games. And, just an all-around good game as well. Has a special place for me because this was the first game that Ben Roethlisberger was included for the Steelers. He was a rookie in this game. It was the first game that I played all the way through, like an entire franchise season in. Just great replayability. Madden 2006. Now, Donovan McNabb on the cover. I'm going to put it in the elite tier. Now, thing with Madden 2006, the reason why, actually, I'm going to put it down in the great tier. Now, personally, this is probably my second favorite Madden game of all time. It was the last Madden game that I owned for the original Xbox. Again, it was an update on Madden 2005. They introduced the NFL Superstar mode in this game. And that was a lot of fun. Like, it was a bit of the first kind of like real story mode, or like you're really taking control of a player. It wasn't quite as refined in Madden 2006. I remember Madden 2007, which we'll get to after this, was when they introduced in Superstar mode that you always, if you were like a linebacker on defense, then you controlled just the linebacker, like a player lock basically. Or on offense, if you were the running back, you just controlled the running back. But in Madden 2006, if you were a running back, you still controlled the whole offense. You didn't just control your player, which I know that's kind of where it's moved back to with Face of the franchise recently, but I kind of liked the player lock. Where like, okay, I'm just controlling this guy, kind of like in the NBA games in 2K. Like when you have your My Career mode, you're not controlling the whole team, you're just controlling your player, which I think is better. It gets your player more involved. Um, so and it makes it to where like, you're not getting penalized for stuff that other people are doing. It's like, oh, okay, like, our defense just gave up a touchdown, but I had perfect coverage on that play, so why am I getting penalized? I don't know. It was still the beginnings of that, but the reason why it's going down here in the great tier and not the elite tier is because of the fact that this was the first game that they tried to port to the Xbox 360, and it was atrocious. I don't. I like. Thankfully, I'd never played it. Um, or that's no, I did play it, but I only ever played it for like 10 minutes. And from what I've heard from other people who owned the game and any reviews and stuff, it was like the worst experience of playing Madden and ever up to that point. It was just like you never want to try and go after these games that are going to be the first games on a new console generation. It's just they don't have everything refined. They don't have, it's just like a test basically. You see it with all sports games. Like, of course, the F1 series, especially with like F1 2015, that was the first one that they tried. Like 2014 and 2015 were the first ones that they really tried to get on like the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and they were terrible. So, really, that's what puts Madden 06 down here in the great tier for me. If it wasn't for that, it would be in the elite tier. But other than that, great tier. Madden 07. This is going to go in. I'm going to put this in the good tier. I don't know. It's just something about this game. I just didn't feel like they changed anything. Like, it was still fun because, I had a lot of fun with Madden 06, but, other than the minor update to Superstar mode, and this is me ranking this based on I own GameCube versions of Madden 07 and Madden 08, which is like the same as like the PS2 and original Xbox versions. It's not like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions because I still wasn't a big fan of those. Like I'll get to that later when I talk about Madden 08, but Madden 07, I don't know. It's not one of the games that I feel like I can go back and play. Like I'd much rather play Madden 08 or Madden 06 than play Madden 07. So like I said, still very good in its own right, but nothing special. Madden NFL 2008. This game is going in the GOAT tier. This is my favorite Madden game. I think it's the best Madden game. That is if you get the PS2, Xbox, original Xbox, and GameCube version. If you get the 360 version or the PS3 version, it's not that good. Mainly because I probably played that version for 15 minutes and I don't know. They just made like the AI hit stick like overpowered. Like I probably over the course of the game, I got hit sticked maybe 5 times, and like 4 of those were fumbles. And I was like, okay, like this is way too overpowered. There's no way that obviously big hits cause fumbles, but people can hold on to the ball better than this. I took big hits when I played football and didn't fumble every single time. So that feature was just way too broken in the 360 version. It also just wasn't refined still. They still were kind of working out the kinks, but the PS2, 360, original Xbox, and GameCube versions were fantastic. The Superstar mode got it a little bit of an update. They introduced something called Fantasy Challenge, which was you kind of took a team and you went through certain like leagues and you could build the team. It wasn't really like your typical franchise mode. Like you couldn't make trades or anything, but like you could negotiate with other teams for players, like, and you could barter players. So like if you put up, in one game, if you win, then you get this player, but if you lose, then you lose this player. It's kind of like a risk reward. And then obviously going to the Supreme League, they had the overpowered teams like the Dummies and the Glaciers and the Deceivers. Like that was all really fun. And I don't know, it just has the most replayability for me out of all the, PS2, original Xbox, GameCube era Maddens. I still occasionally break it out today as my favorite of that thing. Is my favorite of all time. I have yet to find a Madden game that captured my attention and my focus for as long as Madden 08 did. Now we're moving on to the full-on Xbox 360, PS3 era of Madden. And Wii, unfortunately. And I say that for Madden 09's sake because the first copy of Madden 09 that I ever owned was the Wii version of Madden 09. And it was basically, let's just say, the Wii tried to make it too much of a party game, and it just wasn't good. It was very mad. But I did eventually get the Xbox 360 version. I'm going to put it in the okay tier, just because I feel like I go back and play this game. I go back and play Madden 08, Madden 06, and even though, yeah, obviously the physics and everything are different, they're not quite as realistic, they're still loads of fun. I just can't find myself having any fun on Madden 09. It was the first time that they eliminated the previous generation of consoles, and it's just okay. Like, I can obviously appreciate it because this was the actual raw. Because even though Madden 10 came out the year after the Steelers won the Super Bowl, this was like the actual Madden 09 had the actual roster of the team that won the Super Bowl, because there were some changes made after that season, and the team isn't quite the same. But this is the actual team, so I appreciate that. But the game itself is just okay. They introduced Madden moments, which they were, it was a neat concept, but it wasn't quite refined yet. Madden 10, this is going to go in the good tier. It was just a good update on Madden 09. Like, the Madden moments got updated. The franchise mode was updated. A lot of stuff was just kind of updated in this game. And I definitely had a lot more fun playing Madden 10 than I did playing Madden 09. I feel like I could still go back and play Madden 10 today, whereas Madden 09, I don't really want to go back and play. Madden 11, I'm going to put in the same category as Madden 10. I feel like these two games are very similar. There wasn't too much updates between the two of them. It was just slightly updated. The gameplay was updated. The graphics were updated. It's kind of one of those, like, don't fix what's not broken. Because Madden 10 obviously wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad either. So I felt like they didn't really need to change too much when it comes to it. And Madden 11 was a good product at the time. Moving on to Madden 12. Now, this is a tough one for me, because out of this sort of era between 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 12 was the one that I actually played the most. I don't know. I'm going to put it in the good tier. I don't know where else I want to put it. I mean, I don't know. I'm having a really hard time with this. I'm not talking too much, but yeah, I'm just going to put it in Madden 12. Again, like, it was very similar. The biggest thing this was the fact that they updated the franchise mode quite a bit. They introduced things like player cuts in Madden 12. It was just kind of more interactive, like more realism to the game in Madden 12. It's just kind of been so long since I've played a lot of these games, because I know, like, these games I love to go back and play, but these ones I don't really go back and play as much. But Madden 12 will keep it in the good tier. It was definitely a solid game. Terrible cover athlete, I will say that. Obviously, out of all these games, I think everyone would agree this was the worst cover athlete of all time. Madden 13. Now, this is probably, as I said, between 9 through 14, this is the one I played the least. Mainly because I didn't get it for the longest time. I remember playing Madden 13 on like Facebook when they had like the origins of like the Madden mobile, so to speak. And it just, like, I remember playing it, but I'm going to put it in the okay tier, just because I feel like it kind of, like, ruined Madden 12 in a way. Like, Madden 12 was good, and then Madden 13 came out and kind of just, like, I don't know, it feels like they took stuff away. This was the first game they also attempted to try and put on the Wii U. That was not a good idea. That game was not very good. So we're going to stick and put it on the okay tier. Madden 25. I guess I'll put this in the great tier because I was on the precipice of putting Madden 12 in the great tier. I'll put Madden 25 in the great tier because I feel like it's a better version of Madden 12. I feel like they fixed everything that they broke in Madden 13, and Madden 25 was a really good game. I didn't get to play it that too much because I didn't get it till later, but when I did get it, I wanted to play it. It was a solid, it was a celebration of 25 years of Madden. It was a good game all around. Barry Sanders on the cover of the graphics were updated. It did have some weird glitches, I do remember. I feel like Madden 25 may have been the beginning of like kind of the weird glitches that you see in Madden today. Even though it wasn't like the first, it was also the first one that they tried to put on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, which, surprisingly actually turned out okay. But I remember there's a game, if Zach ever watches this, which I'm sure he will, there was a game that I remember playing against him where it was pretty funny because I was doing a kickoff return. I think I was playing as the Seahawks, if I remember correctly, and I had Percy Harvin, and I was taking the kickoff back, and somehow, some way, it looked like that he tackled me. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm on the ground, whatever, this is it, we're done. But then somehow I managed to get up and get out of it, and I went and ran off for a touchdown. And Zach was just kind of like, what? How did that happen? And I was like, I don't know, some weird glitch happening over here. So, yeah, Madden, I don't know, maybe that was the origins of the glitches, but Madden 25 is a solid game, for sure. Madden 15. Where do we put Madden 15? 15 and 16 are going to be the hardest for me because these are, between 04 and 21, I own every single game except for these two and 19. But I've played enough of 19 and heard enough about it to know where I'm going to put 19. But we're going to put Madden 15. I don't know, we're going to put it in the okay tier just because I feel like this is when Madden started going downhill. You hear all the cries today about, Madden needing an update and hashtag drop EA and all that stuff. And I feel like Madden 15 is kind of where that all started. It was a good game from what I heard. It's kind of like Madden 13 in a way. They kind of took away some of the good stuff about Madden 25 and Madden 15. I'm going to put Madden 16 with it. I feel like these two games are kind of a combo deal in a way. They kind of are the same game. They're very similar. Even though I haven't played that much of them. Madden 16, actually, technically, I did play a lot of Madden 16 because I played a lot of Madden Mobile when Madden 16 was big, which that was fine for a little bit, but, I've never been a big Madden Mobile much sort of person, which is when, Madden 15, the Xbox One generation, PS4 generation is when MUT, really took off, and I've just never been a big fan of that. I feel like they tried to focus way too much on that. Rather than trying to focus on things like franchise and other stuff, they just MUT, we want your money, MUT. Pay us money and get better players. So that's why they're going to go in the okay tier. Madden 17. I feel like Madden 17 is also going to go in the okay tier. It was fun when I played it, but just nothing special about it. I think it's, it's definitely different from 15 and 16, I will say that. But it's just nothing special about it, honestly. Just continuing the downfall. They tried to fix some of the things, and it just wasn't a good fix. But it's still a decent game. Out of a lot of the recent Maddens, Madden 17 still has more replayability to me than a lot of the more recent games. So we're gonna put Madden 17 in the okay tier. Madden 18, this is going to go in the bad tier. The first game to dip down into the bad tier, we're going to put Madden 18. Honestly, I'm sure some people would say that some of these need to be lower, but, I guess I'm not as big of a hater on the Madden series as a lot of people are, but Madden 18 is definitely bad. For one, I personally, sort of somewhat liked the long shot story mode that they introduced, but I don't know, it was just very bland in a way. Your choices didn't really mean much. It's like you go through this whole process and everything, and then in the end, it's like, well, I think mainly the biggest thing for me was the fact like there was no continuation after that. Like you could continue in MUT, like, oh, you could get a Devin Wade card or a Colt Cruz card, but like, okay, now like where's the fun now? Okay, Devin Wade's been drafted, and well, technically, depending on which spoilers, which I'm sure nobody really cares, depending on which path you took, there was one path where Colt would actually get drafted in the 5th round, and you would go undrafted. But then, like, whoever your favorite team was, like basically it would be your favorite team and your favorite team's like biggest rival. Well, no, I'll say Colt would get drafted by your favorite team's biggest rival. And then basically, so like for me, it was the Steelers. So, Colt would get drafted by the Ravens. And then afterwards, Devin would get a call. Like, he would go undrafted, but he would get a call from, I can't remember who called him. Someone, I think it was Dan Marino actually called him, since I remember Marino being part of that story. Marino called him and said, okay, yes, you didn't get drafted, but you have an offer from the Steelers and the Ravens who still want to get you. And then you can pick between them. But then if you go the route where, like, Devin gets drafted, Colt goes undrafted, which I think is the canonical ending, basically. Colt goes undrafted. You get drafted very late in the 7th round by your favorite team, so it's the Steelers. And they come up with this epilogue like, oh, Devin's going to start as like the 4th string quarterback on the roster next season. But it's like, okay, well, now I kind of want to play and like build him up and, try and win the starting job. Like, I feel like that would be more fun than this whole, long shot thing. Like, oh, this somewhat emotional story or whatever that they came up with. I feel like that would be more fun, like fighting and grinding to get the starting job rather than, the story mode that they had. So it's bad. Didn't change anything from Madden 17 on the other stuff either. It's just not good. Madden 19. Trash. I'm sure a lot of people would not disagree with me on this about Madden 19 being trash. I, for one, haven't played it as much just because I know how bad it was. They had like a sequel to Longshot, and it just wasn't good. The original Longshot wasn't that bad anyway. Wasn't very good anyway. But obviously, Madden 19 is a worse version of it. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to figure out remember, like I said, since I didn't play it too much, there was a lot. I know there was a lot of lagging in the game. There was a lot of glitches. They didn't refine enough on what happened in Madden 18. There was just nothing redeeming about it. I don't know. I haven't played the game enough to really give my in-depth, personal full opinion on Madden 19 as to why it's so bad. But it just wasn't very good. I mean, I've heard from my cousins about how bad it was. Like, basically, I remember when Madden 20 came out, they were chomping at the bit, we want to get Madden 20 now. We don't want to wait for it. And whereas, kind of this time around, this is going to be the opposite when I start talking about Madden 20, Madden 21. But moving on from Madden 19, Madden 20. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would say I need to put this in the bad tier or even need to put it in the trash tier. I'm going to put it in the okay tier. The one redeeming quality that Madden 20 has was Superstar KO. Now, that's not the case anymore because, not many people are playing it anymore, and Madden doesn't really care about the servers and everything, blah, 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 blah. But when we first got Madden 20, and I'm basing that on this because, most of these games don't age well, especially when you're talking about a fully online game mode, it's not going to age well. But for when we first got Madden 20, Superstar KO was a fantastic concept. You took one drive from the 25, no kicking, you either get a touchdown and you have to go for 2, and then the other team gets one drive and you have to try and stop them. A safety ends the game for you. A defensive touchdown ends it. And you keep picking more and more superstar players to add to your team. The X Factors, I think, was a really cool idea, to really make some of these better players stand out. Some of them, in a way, could be overpowered. I know my cousins will tell you about how overpowered Saquon Barkley and Joey Bosa are, which, I do agree that to a certain extent they are. Honestly, a lot of the edge rushers are overpowered. Myles Garrett's not an X factor anymore, but when in Madden 20, but when he was, Myles Garrett was pretty overpowered. DeMarcus Lawrence is pretty overpowered. But it just adds like a fun sort of element to the game. When it's not going to be super realistic, adding more arcadey style things to the game makes it better. Because I think that's what made the older Maddens like 04, 05, 08 like so fun, was because they had more of like an arcadey feel to them mixed with the realism. You have to find that balance between realism and arcadey. And I think Madden 20 did a good job with that with the X Factors. And Superstar KO, I think, was really fun. The rest of it is, subpar at best. The gameplay is fine, but there was, the franchise mode still could use a huge update. Having said that, my cousins and I still have, a Madden 20 franchise going to this day, but I don't know, it fits in the okay category for me. It's a game that I still enjoy to play. Same cannot be said for Madden 21. Now, this is definitely going to be unanimous across the board. Same with Madden 19. No one's going to disagree with me, except for maybe a couple people, that Madden 21 belongs in the trash tier. Just from having played it, I will say I didn't talk about Face of the Franchise in Madden 20. I didn't really like it. It was kind of a very short story, so I felt like it was kind of, not necessary in a way, to really do that, but it was okay. It's not something that I really would play, but it was okay. Madden 21, I've had this game for 2 weeks now, and I'm already regretting even spending the $22. Thank God I didn't go out and pre-order it like a lot of these people did and pay $60 for it. It's just, I feel like it breaks everything from Madden 20. I don't know, it just feels like a much worse version of Madden 20. I feel like the gameplay is clunky. The players don't move as well in Madden 21. I've noticed that. I feel like you have a lot more control, especially when you're running the ball. Throwing the ball is pretty much still the same, but when you're running the ball, I feel like you have a lot more control over your player in Madden 20 than you do in Madden 21. I find myself, in Madden 20, I can squeeze through those small holes in the line and, find different paths to weave and duck. In Madden 21, I find myself constantly just not being able to get through the line because I can't control my player very well. I feel like the moves are clunky too. The juke moves aren't as good. The spin moves are kind of the same. But I don't know, it just feels clunky to me running the ball. Nothing else. Again, the franchise didn't get an update. Face of the Franchise is really, the story is probably the dumbest thing. Some people didn't like Long Shot in the story mode with that. The story mode in Face of the Franchise is way worse. You have this guy, you have basically your teammate in high school who's got this heart defect, and he's always complaining, still saying oh, this is my team, and gets all mad at you when you reveal his heart defect, and you're trying to help him and he's getting all mad at you. Then you go to college and you've got the dumbest coach imaginable. You can go out and whoop a team 63-0, but then you still get benched. I don't know. It's just one of the dumbest stories. I don't know who wrote it, but it's really, really dumb. And like I said, it just feels clunkier. I went to go play. I haven't played much of the Yard yet, but the Yard I've heard is fun. But Superstar KO was what I was looking forward to when they came out with Madden 21, because I really loved it in Madden 20, and it's basically the same thing, and it seems to me like it still has the same lagging and internet problems because when Madden 20 first came out, Superstar KO, there was no lag, there was no connection problems, it was perfect. As it aged, it started to get those, which in a way I kind of got because less people were playing it, but it feels like Madden 21 has those, even though everybody's playing it now, and it shouldn't have those because it's a new game. It had it when it came out. And it still hasn't. It's okay, there's not been another Madden yet, so why is the game suffering from connection issues and the server's not working properly? And I don't know, it's terrible. And I don't know what they're gonna do when it comes to Madden 22, but hopefully it doesn't end up in the trash tier, and hopefully they can somehow find a way to salvage this game, because I played a lot of this when I was a kid, and it's, a franchise, it's a video game franchise that have been around my entire life, and it's really sad to see it in the current state that it is. But just a quick recap before the end: we have Madden 08 in the GOAT tier, Madden 04 and 05 in the Elite tier, Madden 2000, 2001, 06, and 25 in the Great tier, Madden 2002, 2003, 2007, 2010, 2011, and 2012 in the Good tier, Madden 09, Madden 13, Madden 15, 16, 17, and 20 in the OK tier, Madden 18 in the Bad tier, and Madden 19 and 21 in the Trash tier. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave suggestions down below for what you want to see next. Probably going to come back with another sports-related tier list next time, not video game-related, even though this is like sports video games. But be sure to leave suggestions and follow us on Twitter at ClutchCrewSport and at MrCDog54 if you want to follow me. And as always, be clutch.